Willy Wonka and his titular chocolate factory have earned their place in pop culture. Different generations have grown up with iterations of the Roald Dahl novel of the same name. Today we will be diving into both the 1970s and 2005 versions. Now, with two different filmmakers with the two renditions of the same story, there will be noticeable differences. First, the 1970s version, directed by Mel Stewart's take on Wonka World, to create this whimsical style of musicals, where characters break out into song to express their wonderment. However, the 2005 version, directed by Tim Burton, sets Willy Wonka and his factory in a dark and muted world, capturing the fantastical nature of the original story, but in contrast to the excitement of Mel Stewart's colorful palette. Tim Burton's Wonka is a socially awkward character that leaves you wondering how he could fit into his fantastical factory. These films could be classified as fantasy comedies, with both renditions being slightly different than the source material. The humor of both Willy Wonka shows the difference in comedic tone because the 1970s version gives the impression of a silly and friendly Wonka that jokes with the other characters. In contrast, Tim Burton's characterization turns that charisma into dark humor because Wonka dismisses the misfortune of the kids and the worry of the parents. The codes in this film are different, but I'm going to hone in on the lining, which is the most famous difference between the two. Tim Burton's signature mark is his muted tones in his films, with his work being gothic, but it's interesting when he got chosen to do the colorful Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, he still stuck with the muted color palette. One type of convention of these films are genre. The comedy of both these films are very prevalent, with the running gags. The fantastical setting and the Chocolate Factory can be attributed to the fantasy part of these fantasy comedy films. The era that these two films were set in were far apart from each other, specifically 34 years apart, so the kids of the 1970s will be different to the kids of 2005, right? Well, actually, a lot of the characters were kept the same, which shows that these characters aren't tied to a specific time period, except Mike TV, whose character embodies Roald Dahl's hatred for the brain-rotting, TV-watching youths of the time. However, that portrayal would have been dated for the 2000s, so they fixed it by turning him into a loudmouth and obnoxious gamer kid. The portrayal of brain-rotting youths was kept in due to the narrative of video games causing violence, with the news kept blowing that story out of proportion. The audience engagement is pretty simple, with the film being a movie in cinemas that was later released on video. No 3D, no surround sound to immerse the viewer like a horror movie. It's just a normal movie that doesn't lose anything by being watched at home. This movie is trying to engage kids, but adults can also be engaged due to the themes of the story and what Roald Dahl was trying to say about classism. Kids can take in the message about humbleness and how it can take you further in life rather than being self-serving, which makes you obnoxious. It can also serve as a nice reminder for adults that have also forgotten that message. These films' reception are very different, with the 1971 version being well received, but some audience seeing the film calling the cinematography flat. It was criticized as not being faithful to the novel. On the other hand, the 2005 version was praised for its faithfulness to the original book and using real candy during filming. People didn't take well to Johnny Depp's portrayal of Willy Wonka, with them complaining he was too strange compared to Gene Wilder's children's TV host performance. In conclusion, the two films differ in many aspects, whether it be style of directors, its take on humor, its codes and conventions, historical context, audience consumption, reception, and small things like characterization. But ultimately, I believe the one you like more is the one you grew up with. Or maybe you just like the book and hate the movie.